And I think we're ready to go. April, welcome. Let's do it.
Oh, yeah, welcome. It's Wednesday night again. So tonight we're talking about how to meet travel partners online.
Yeah.
And you and I have both met fabulous people that we never thought we'd meet just by saying, "Hey, I want to go do this. I want to go here, go there." So we have lots of great information to share. So,
Yeah. And lots of times people are, you want to go somewhere and you want to share it with a friend or a family member, or you just want to have a good time, but you're a little hesitant to run it alone. I mean, I'm a big proponent of traveling alone, but that's not everybody's thing. And sometimes it is more enjoyable to be with a couple of friends or even one friend. So we want to just chat about some of the ways to find someone who will travel with you. So where that's our first thing on the list was where to find them.
yeah, I think the big thing is to, like, start talking about it and telling like your family, your friends, because maybe there's a distant relative, a distant cousin that you didn't even think about. We get so busy with our lives, and you're like, oh, maybe I should ask her. She might want to go. And
Right, right. Matter of fact, I was just with a family member, actually a distant family member the other day, and someone in the group was like, "Oh, you should meet Vic's wife because she does this all the time," or it was his sister. And I was like, "Oh, that's somebody I could probably travel with because I don't even know her, but we probably would enjoy
right.
traveling together. And if we were able to connect, we might be able to get a really cool trip together because it sounds like she also travels the way that I do. So sometimes it's just keeping your ear to it, right? To
Yes,
what's happening.
exactly.
So friends and family are obviously your first choice, probably. And then there are things like if you're looking for travel partners, you might look at community groups. So don't forget about things like churches and clubs and things that you belong to, right? Who
Right,
have
or even join something just
yeah,
because, I
specifically.
mean, you just
Yeah.
specifically, if you're interested in hiking or biking, I know like even stores now sponsor like Saturday events like
Mhm.
REI. You could go, there's probably other people there, and just start chatting and finding about trips or opportunities, whether it's an art group or, like you said,
Right.
churches often have these things. Public libraries even have, they host like different events and groups that are
Yeah.
tied, obviously they're tied to a book, but they also have other interests that tie to travel. So
Right. Well, and you hit on a good thing there about like the clubs of whether it's hiking or photography or art or architecture, taking an architecture
yeah.
tour. If you have an interest in a certain area, you find like-minded folks who might be interested in those things to travel with you to see them. So if you're a big foodie, maybe go to a
Oh
cooking
yeah.
class locally. You'd meet other people who like to cook and are foodies as well. And then maybe you can take a foodie tour somewhere together,
Right.
might connect
Exactly.
with somebody. And that would be so it's really there's a lot of places to try to connect in person and find people, but obviously there's a lot of people doing this online. That's another area to connect with travelers. So there's tons of places to do that. Facebook is one. A lot of folks that we know we've met through Facebook.
Yeah, we
um,
always talk about meetup.com.
yeah.
So there's that. And then if you just did a search like find a travel partner, find a travel friend, there's new sites. I think you mentioned Gaffle. I know
Careful.
I saw like Backpacker. I mean, just doing a quick Google search, you'll find a bunch of different sites have come up. Go through the site a little bit because many of them again are geared towards certain interests or different age groups, depending, because you may feel more comfortable matching either an interest or an age group, or just to have that, again, that like-minded experience.
Right. And you might also find someone who you could meet in country. So looking at things like host a sister, because host a sister is not necessarily a travel partner, but it is, and you don't have to stay with them. They would just host you for lunch and you might meet up with someone in a city along the way. So there's lots of ways to connect with people to make your travel journey more exciting. But there's lots of places to find them, or just go on to one of these travel groups because there's hundreds and
I
thousands
know,
of them
yeah.
on Facebook and different places where you can just go in and say, "Hey, I'm looking for a travel partner." But you need to be a little more specific than just looking for a travel partner, right?
Yeah, I think if you're looking for a partner, when you go to these online groups, say it's a Facebook group, think about where you want to go. Already have your destination or an area of where you want to go, or the type of travel. Maybe you're, into backpacking or camping or
Right.
bicycling, whatever that is, and you want to take a, you want to walk the Camino, let's say. You
Right.
want to post that. You want to say, I'm looking for a friend to walk the Camino with me, or I'd like to go to Portugal this summer. Some details would really help instead of just leaving it like wide
Wide
open.
open. Yeah, because I think that's where people get kind of stuck in the wide open. It's like you say you want to travel, and people go, well, me too, but I don't, what do you mean and
Yeah,
where, right? And a lot of people's travel styles are different. I mean, we meet those folks all the time who travel just a little different than you and I. And so, I want to go on a cruise. That I probably wouldn't go on a cruise. It's not my
right.
thing, right? So if I saw that somebody's looking for somebody to share a room on a cruise, that wouldn't be my thing. But other people love cruises and they'll
Yeah,
jump right into there.
exactly. Right.
Or you want to go hiking or backpacking and I want to do it. Give some specifics. Now, of course, you can be flexible if you can be flexible, and you can change once you meet a partner and adjust to their time frame and maybe where they want to go. But I think you have to start with, I want to go to Paris this summer. I want to go, to Cuba in August, like whatever
Right.
yeah. And then
Yeah.
see who will bite on that and start a dialogue with those people and see if you can spring something forward from there.
Yeah, I think that's really important is stating what you're hoping to find more than just, hey, I want to find a travel partner. Because I have a lot of friends, and if they say, hey, I want to go somewhere, their very next question is, well, where were you thinking? Or what time of year? I mean, those are the very next two things. Because they need, I mean, just like me, I may not necessarily want to go camping for a whole week. If it's a couple
Right.
days, hey, I may be in, but, so it's important to say that.
Yeah, and what kind of experience you're looking for, right? Like if you're looking for a relaxing, lay on the beach kind of thing, or you're looking to see the woods or nature photography tour, like I'm looking for a place to see that, or I'm interested in history, putting some of that out there so that people can get a feel for um, what kind of package trip or what kind of trip you're trying to put
Right.
together so you can
Right.
plan together. And we've definitely done another episode on this, I think a previous Wednesday, on how to stay friends with your friends
Yeah.
and family when you
Right.
travel and how to plan together. So we'll link that in the description here. So once you do find them, you can kind of work together with how to do that. But if you met the person online, there's a bit of vetting the person, and maybe even a bit of that if they are a friend or kind of a distant
Yeah.
friend or family,
Right.
right? Just to make
Yeah.
sure that this is someone I want to spend 5 days with or
Right.
16 days with, whatever that is.
Yeah. It's important to vet the person, whether, maybe check their social media
Yes.
sites, do a Google search of their first and last name, even if it is a family member. Because again, just because they're a family member, their personality, their, travel style, whether they like, all of that could be completely different.
Right.
And so I think it's very important to do some searching and see if they're
Fine.
out there and
Yeah, find out what they do. I mean, I always check social media now, even when I rent my apartment out on Airbnb sometimes. And when I do that, I ask for social media profiles. That tells me that they're a real person, and then I can look and see what kind of person they are. It gives me some way to contact them. If they're not willing to share that, then, they're probably got something to hide.
yeah,
And if I'm going
right.
to travel with you, I should be able to look at your social media profile just to see what you've been up to, and, make sure that they're valid, the stories you're hearing kind of sync with what you
Right.
see on their online
Right.
profile. Not that, that's necessary, but if honestly, if they would give me something where the profile was brand new yesterday, I probably wouldn't be interested. If I saw that they were partying all the time, I think I would
Yeah.
question that. I'd be like, that's not my thing. If that's what you're thinking to do when you travel, maybe we're not, the right kind of
Yeah,
partners, right?
exactly.
So I think looking at that, and then also just doing a phone call and maybe set up a couple of them. This Zoom is fantastic where you can see the person's face and look at them.
Right.
Um,
I think that's super important to like schedule a time to even, if you're a little uncomfortable of starting with the Zoom, start with the phone call, because
yeah,
oftentimes just chatting, if there's, an
yeah,
uneasiness that you're sensing, I mean, really listen to your gut. If there's a red flag when you ask questions or how they're responding or just how you feel. I mean, sometimes you can really determine a lot right there, and definitely schedule a few calls and a Zoom
yes.
call, especially if you can't meet for a coffee in a public place or have a meal together locally in a public place, because that often tells so much about how you're going to feel on the trip. I mean, the worst case is you don't want to get 3,000 miles from home and,
And realize that this is not the person I want to spend my
right.
8 days with. And you don't have to make the phone calls about vetting the person. You don't have to say, let's get on the phone. I want to make sure you're not
No.
crazy, right?
Yeah.
But you can, just say, let's get on the phone and plan a little bit together, or let's get on the phone and talk about our previous travel experiences. That might be a good conversation. Just have a little topic you want to talk about with them, and, do it live, whether it's
Right,
on
right.
a phone call or a Zoom call, a video call. I would definitely encourage you to do a video call before you travel with them, even if you only do one, because then you'll see their face, you get facial expressions. There's all
Right.
kinds of stuff that helps with
Yeah,
that.
you'll pick up just cues. You'll know if it feels comfortable, just like meeting someone for the first time. If you go have coffee or you go have lunch together, you'll be like, "Oh wow, I really like this person. We have a lot in common." Or,
Right.
"Oh, I'm going to have to really just ask questions." Or, you can always then set up boundaries if you're still determined to go on this trip,
Right.
with this
Yeah,
person.
because as we've said in our previous one, you don't have to be best friends to travel together, and you don't have to spend every waking moment together. You can connect in the evening and have a meal and stay in the same room, but go off on your adventures together for the most part during the day. And that can be a beautiful trip. It gives you the safety and security of having a partner and someone to share moments with, shares costs because you share a
Yeah.
room, but you don't have to necessarily spend every moment together either. So there's lots of things like that. And we had a few questions to ask, but we cover that in the other session too. But let's just cover it briefly here. Some of the questions.
Yeah, I was gonna say we should, definitely watch that other episode where we gave you a lot of questions to go for. But budget, I think, is a big one
Yes.
because, if you're not matching on budget, just even trying to plan where to
Yeah.
stay together or what kind of, if you're taking a tour or something, one person's pocketbook can be totally different from someone else's. And the worst case is standing outside the restaurant and you're both real and one person's realizing like gulp, like I don't
Yeah.
know, this is like there's only an appetizer on there that I really could afford to order. It puts that awkwardness.
Yeah. Yeah. When you feel awkward, both sides feel awkward, right? The one who doesn't want to spend the money is like, I don't know what to say because they really want to go here. And the one who wants to go there is, like, I don't know what to say, but I really want to go here. I know they can't or
Yeah.
don't want to, spend that kind of money. So it's really good to, again, have those discussions about budget. It can still work, right? As long as you
Right.
agree that you're going to separate on that. But overall, the budget needs to kind of match because, like you said, you're not going to be able to stay in the same hotels if you don't have a similar budget plan.
Right.
You're not going to want to see or do the same kinds of things if your budgets are not similar. But then also just ask, like, what are they trying to accomplish on the trip? Is it a rest and relaxation trip? Is it an adventure tour? They're trying to conquer something. Is it
Yeah,
a
the
bucket list?
why, like
Right.
why are
Yeah.
you taking this trip or why do you want to? I mean, because even if it's
Yes.
just the simple thing of I've never been to London, one person's idea of seeing London might be to go out and see all the music and the
Right.
clubs late at night, and the other person wants to get up early and see the sights and walk the city. And it's not that those two people can't share a room, but that needs to be discussed again ahead
Right.
of time so one person's okay with, yeah, I'm turning on the lights and turning on the shower at 6 a.m. And
Yeah.
you might have just come in at 2 and closed down the bar with,
Right.
friends and
Right. And then so that feelings aren't hurt too. So when they
right.
say, I want to go to the club and you're like, I think I'm going to go back to the room, you aren't thinking, oh, what did I do? You don't want to hang
Yeah.
out with me. Well, if we have the why and we understand it before we get going, we're not going to be upset or disappointed in that. The more you talk about it, obviously, the better. And as we said in the other episode, we talk a little more detail about the kinds of questions you can ask to kind of
Yeah.
ensure that it goes well. Again, it can always work, even if you're very different people trying to do a very different trip. It's still very possible to go together, as long as those discussions are had ahead of time and you have an understanding, so feelings aren't hurt
Right.
and that kind of
Exactly.
thing. Yeah, but I think that brings us kind of back to what we said at the beginning. Sort of describe what you're looking for in a trip before when you start asking for someone to go, because if like you really want to go hike and you want to do Machu Picchu and that's what you want to do, say that, because
Yeah,
some people,
exactly.
like, oh, you want to go to Peru? I always wanted to do whatever, and it has nothing to do with like physical activity. Um, and so Peru is part of it, but if the real thing is the hiking part, that's the
Yes.
outdoorsy, then make that part of your ask. Like, I want to go do this and hike and I want to go in, I don't know, February, whatever that date is,
Right,
so
right,
that people can start to think, oh, I also want to do that. And I also can go in February. And then you've sort of vetted them a little bit before they even
right.
respond to you. And
I
so,
think that is so super important. And then, Cindy and I talk about this often, that there's so many thousands of people anxious to travel.
yes,
You're gonna find someone. So
yes,
sometimes you think, oh, well, they might go if I word it this way. No, you don't
no.
want to go with the person where you feel like you're bending the story or
Mhm.
changing it to fit. Like, well, I don't think they want to hike as much as I do, but I'm just gonna tell them it's no, no, no. You need to
No,
be straight up honest, because you will find a wonderful person
there's
that you
someone.
didn't expect, and maybe get to be best friends on this adventure, on this trip together, and you'll maybe travel again in the future.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and you might even be surprised. Like, just go into your own Facebook profile and put it out there. Like, I want to plan this trip, and see
yeah,
if friends and family, there might be a friend or a family member who you never even knew wanted to do that exact trip that's on your bucket
right.
list, right? And
Exactly.
suddenly you're having this amazing experience with a long lost cousin or an aunt you haven't seen in a long time, right? So if you're looking, just put it all out there. Um, I think we wanted to talk a little bit about what happens if they cancel, because this is
Yes.
a huge problem. I hear it all the time, planning trips with friends, and then at the last minute your friends or family bail and don't go.
Right. And that's also, things happen. I think
Right,
that needs to be said too. I mean, you could fall and break your wrist like I
right,
did. And then I wasn't able to maybe go the next week. I wasn't in a good place to do that. So anything could happen where it's
right,
not you or the trip, it's just life happens and all of a sudden they're not able to go.
right. Mhm.
So before that happens, what is your backup plan? Are you still going to go on your
Right.
own? And is that an option money wise,
Mhm.
just mentally? Where are you
Yeah.
at with that?
Well,
So,
and we organize tours for people, and we have like a drop dead date, right? Like at a certain point,
yeah,
you don't get your money back, right? So, if you've already, booked a room and the room is X price because you're splitting it with your girlfriend or this new friends you met, it's like, if you back out, maybe have that agreement. Like, if you back out 2 days before, I kind of need you to still pay your half,
yeah,
because I can't afford to change it and I still want to go, right?
right,
um,
exactly.
or whatever that is. I mean, look at the whole picture and have that discussion. Like you said, April, it's not necessarily because they didn't want to go or they don't like you. They could fall and hurt their wrist.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I had someone cancel on a trip for me. I think they had a water heater or something. They had a big, internal problem at their home. They had a leak and a replacement. So they had several $1,000s worth of, or hundreds of dollars,
Yeah,
I don't remember, but they had a lot of money that they had to put in unexpectedly, to something, and then they just couldn't, afford to take the trip. So they had to cancel, and it was a bit last minute, and I did have to keep a little bit of their deposit because there were things that I wasn't
yeah,
able to change at the last minute. But for the most part, I was able to refund them. But those things happen, and just saying that out loud to your travel partner, that I know things are going to happen or could happen. Let's
right,
talk about what we're going to do, so nobody's feelings are hurt, right? So nobody's
right.
upset or angry. And are you really still thinking about going even if they don't go? Maybe you want to travel with 3 or 4 people, right? So
Right.
that if one
I
or
was
two.
gonna say, you might want to have that thought ahead of time, because if it is just the two of you and you don't have a group that you were meeting up with or other friends,
Right,
and maybe you aren't comfortable. I know a lot of us don't want to travel completely alone for a week. I know myself, if it's a few days, yeah, it'd probably be fine, but a whole
right,
week, I might be like, oh, it's not, I'm not going to have the same experience. And I'm going to feel like a lost dog. It may not be
right,
good. So I need to know ahead of time, either plan a little bit bigger group. So again,
right.
if somebody isn't able to, something happens, I still have the rest of the people that we are going to go. Or maybe I'm meeting up with, maybe I've got some things planned, whether it's
Mhm.
staying in a Airbnb, and I've got a few tours where I'm like, you know what, I could do this on my own because I've set these things up already. So it's not so bad.
Right, right, right. So putting some sort of plan together in your head, and also having that open dialogue with your
Yeah.
partners about what's the drop dead date and how do we know and how do we make sure we're all going to go, so you don't have feelings hurt. And I hear it all the time where people will plan a trip with a partner, and then somebody, whether it's a friend or family member, bails out and they said, you know what? I'm going anyway. And
Yeah,
yay for them, right?
exactly. Yeah.
You got super excited about going, and you just like, it doesn't matter whether you come or go, I'm still going to go. And maybe that's what will happen. And if not, you know what you're going to do, you know how to bail out of the trip and maybe reschedule it, or like me, I could call my mom and she'd come no matter what.
Yeah,
I could
right.
just be like, Mom, I have an open slot. You want to come for, a week and go here? And she would join me. And maybe you have a friend who would just, step in there at any
Right. I was
time.
just gonna say maybe have that backup person that's,
Yeah.
that
And
has
on the
free
queue.
time and we on like, hey, do you want to take that spot in the car, that room, whatever it is, and
Yeah.
maybe they, fly, they're a day off on days on flying, but still, then you've got that person to take the trip and step in.
Yeah, yeah. So much fun to figure out what your backup plan is. But, just start planning. And as we said at the beginning of the call, think about where you want to go, what kind of trip you want, right? That's
Yes.
what, and if you start there and then start kind of putting things together and just keep putting it out there. I want to go here and I want to do this. Anybody else excited about this?
Right, and talk about it. I mean, like if
Yeah.
you're going to your hairdresser or your
Hmm.
wherever it is, it's funny. Like, you might realize just in a conversation that someone is like, "Oh, I just had a friend talking about that they wanted to do this. Maybe I can connect you." It's
Right.
so funny how things sometimes the universe just kind of takes care of you and brings you together with someone.
That's absolutely right. Yeah. So just start planning your trip and just believe that the universe is going to make it
Yeah,
happen for you, because I do, that
exactly.
it absolutely can happen for everybody. So I didn't see any questions on our on our chat. So we covered everything, right?
Yeah, we covered everything. I mean, like I said, put it out there, find groups. There's a ton of groups on Facebook if you're not into Facebook, going in your community and looking. Even if you went to a college or university years ago, there's a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of alumni programs, and maybe the package tour is too much to take, but they might have an alumni group or
Right.
where you could email or contact someone and post again that you're looking for someone, and then you have that in common as well. Or
Right, right, absolutely. So let's get people out there, and we'll post in this one the link to the other episode
right.
where we talked about, what questions to ask once you do have a travel partner. And so we hope you guys will come back next Wednesday. We'll continue to share more travel tips.
Right. And join us on Saturday. We actually have a Birds of a Feather
Oh
event,
yeah, that's right.
and it's a lot of fun. So you can meet other travelers there. And if you've never been, it doesn't matter. So we'll post the link there as well, or go to our Facebook group, the Travel Collective. It's open to men and women. We post trips, we post all of our events there too. So
Yes.
please like, subscribe, comment, and we want to meet you. We want to travel. So,
Yeah, and comment and let us know what you think and what other topics we should cover as well. So talk to you all
all
next.
right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.